Welcome to the many interpretations of Velociraptor. Also, thank you all so much for 30,000 subscribers. Of course, this video is basically going to act as a little bit of a special. Because this is a video that has been requested a lot. A lot of you have been wanting me to talk about Velociraptor on this channel, and of course I wanted to save it for a big milestone video, and I think that 30,000 subscribers is certainly a big milestone. So thank you for, thinking that I was worth subscribing to. That really does mean a lot to me, and it really does help out a lot. So just once again, thank you. Of course, Velociraptor is one of the most popular dinosaurs ever for a multitude of different reasons, mostly because of Jurassic Park. So we have quite a few media depictions to dive into with this video, so it's going to be a little bit of a lengthy video. So basically just kind of sit back, relax, maybe get some popcorn, and yeah, enjoy some awesome Velociraptors. Let's get right into it. We'll go ahead and start off with Carnosaur. So apparently this fella right here is a Velociraptor, and it is among one of the first on-screen appearances of a Velociraptor. We have a practical effect that looks really cool, all things considered. It is, of course, featherless. The skull is a lot more broad than Velociraptor's skull was. Its hands are breaking, all that good stuff. This is kind of like, this is basically going to be the standard going forward, so get used to depictions like this. But then after that, we move on to the big one, Jurassic Park. Now, of course, Jurassic Park is where Velociraptor essentially became a household name. Everybody knew about this dinosaur after the fact, and along with it came a lot of misconceptions about the dinosaur. Now, of course, I need to specify something. This is technically not Velociraptor. When Michael Crichton was writing the original novel, he intended for it to be Deinonychus. But he liked the idea that Deinonychus was simply just another species of velociraptor, known as Velociraptor anteropus. He also believed that the name Velociraptor simply sounded better, and so he intentionally wrote them as Deinonychus, but they had the name of Velociraptor. The same logic was then applied to Jurassic Park, the film. So that's why you have Velociraptors that look like this, with a skull that is a lot more reminiscent to a Deinonychus skull. They were also scaled up to be, more terrifying and also help the actors fit in the suits. I just had to clarify that, but of course, most people do know these guys as Velociraptors, so we're just going to talk about them as such. Now, in the first Jurassic Park film, these guys look great. They are very good depictions of Deinonychus for the time, but we're not talking about Deinonychus, so let's just talk about their individual designs. They have a base coloration of brown. Overall, they're very terrifying. They have these slit pupils, which is actually kind of likely for a Velociraptor. Velociraptor, we know that they had sclerotic rings, which are these, little bones in their eyes. It's something that, of course, helps with their vision. And with them being as low to the ground as they are, it's likely that they were low to the ground ambush predators. So slit pupils are something that's likely for them. But the first one, of course, set the standard. It's a very cool and iconic design, and likely what most people would think of when they hear the word Velociraptor, or even raptor. After that, there's the Lost World Jurassic Park, which basically keeps the whole idea consistent, although I think that the snout is a little bit thinner, and it has very cool colors. Some tiger striping. It has a base coloration of orange with some black stripes. Looks awesome. This is when they're starting to kind of do a little bit extra with the colors, and I'm all here for it. I love it. And then in Jurassic Park 3, we have the absolute pinnacle of Jurassic Park Velociraptor designs. These guys are my favorites. You have the female right here that has a base coloration of white with some black spots. Looks amazing. And then you have the males that has like a base coloration of a type of dark blue or kind of gray, and then this blue stripe, lighter blue stripe, as well as some mixtures of red and some whites. These colors are so cool. And then on top of that, there's also some quills on the males' heads, which is also a really cool touch and kind of hints at the fact that Velociraptor was truly a feathered dinosaur. They also tweaked the overall design a little bit. I mean, the skull and the overall proportions mostly remain consistent. However, they do have a crest that's set right before their eyes, which is certainly an interesting addition and kind of helps it stand out from the rest of the Jurassic Park Velociraptors. But yeah, full stop, these guys are my favorites. I love the way that they look. And then in Jurassic World, we were introduced to 4 different Velociraptors of different colors. You have Blue, Echo, Charlie, and Delta. Echo's my favorite. I like those colors. But they're all, of course, individuals from each other and, look pretty cool overall. Blue has a base coloration of gray with a blue stripe. Echo sort of has some browns mixed in with some yellows and some orange. Charlie has a base coloration of green with some darker stripes. And Delta is just basically consistently green across the body. They all, look pretty cool overall. There are some design changes that did happen that I'm not a big fan of and I think kind of look weird. Mostly the mouth. For some reason, the teeth extend all the way back behind their eyes, which I'm just not a fan of that. I don't know, it just looks off to me. It looks a little bit funky. So yeah, in my opinion, mostly mixed bag designs. And then in Camp Cretaceous, around season 5, we are introduced to these manticore raptors that mostly just have a green coloration and are kind of like a mixture between the Jurassic World Velociraptors and the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors, mostly because they have the crest right there. So very interesting. Now, of course, I like to stay within the Jurassic franchise once I start talking about the Jurassic franchise because there's so many. But there's a lot of video games with these fellas, so I'm not really going to spend too much time on them because they are based off of the movies, so I can't spend too much time here. So what I'm going to do is name which movie the Velociraptor shows up in, and then showing you a picture of that. In most cases, I'll show you a picture of my favorite model, because some of them have different models. So there's Jurassic Park for the NES, Jurassic Park for the SNES, Jurassic Park Sega Genesis, The Lost World Jurassic Park arcade game, The Lost World Jurassic Park PSX, Jurassic Park Trespasser, Warpath Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder, Jurassic Park 3 Danger Zone, Jurassic Park Dinosaur Battles, Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, Jurassic Park Explorer, Jurassic Park the Game, Jurassic Park Builder, Jurassic Park Arcade, Jurassic World the Game, Jurassic World Alive. There's also, Lego Jurassic World that basically looks a lot like the designs, but I always like to mention how I like Lego versions of dinosaurs most of the time anyway. And yeah, this one's pretty cool. It's pretty screen accurate, but Lego-ified, so you gotta love it. And then that is the end of the Jurassic Park Velociraptors. Oh my gosh, I was wrong. So this is from Power Rangers Dino Charge, I think. And they have like these CGI models that I think happens with their transformation. I never saw this one personally. I've mentioned this before, but I was mostly a Dino Thunder fella, so there was the other dinosaur Power Rangers that I never saw. Anyway, this is basically the Jurassic Park 3 male Velociraptor. What's up with that? The colors are a little bit different, but it does have the crest, like the red crest that the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor had, and some of the basic patterns. So that's interesting, but everything I said about the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor applies to that one. There's the Land Before Time, and these are very much Jurassic Park inspired Velociraptors, of course. They're named Velociraptor, but they're different quite a bit. They lack their feathers, they're a little bit larger, and they overall have a basic Deinonychus appearance. But they have like a base coloration of a sort of brown coloration with some darker stripes. And those huge toe claws, which, yeah, Velociraptor did have those too. Next up is Disney's Dinosaur, and this is probably the most accurate one we've seen yet, mostly with the skeleton though. So yeah, the overall skeletal appearance of this guy is far more reminiscent to Velociraptor than anything else we've seen thus far. It's got a thin snout, a pretty thin neck, and overall a thinner body. It's also relatively small compared to other dinosaurs in the film. But they do, of course, lack feathers. Velociraptor did have feathers. We know that Dromaeosaurs had feathers, and Velociraptor has even been found with quill knobs in its ulna. Those quill knobs would have been attachment points for feathers, so feathers were definitely present on Velociraptor. But that aside, of course, I do really like this design. There's something about the colors that I just think look great, especially the blue on the head. It's a fantastic kind of early 2000s design for this animal, and I, for one, love it. In Kong the Animated Series, we have some very Jurassic Park-like Velociraptors right here with a yellow coloration. There's really not too much else I can say about that. In The Legend of Tarzan, same thing applies, although their snout is a little bit more thin, a little bit more in line with Velociraptor, but they're still big, they're still featherless, and they're still a little bit more like Jurassic Park. Chased by Dinosaurs. Now we have a documentary, so accuracy is of course kept in mind, and again, their skeleton does match up a lot more. That skull looks good, the rest of the skeleton looks good. This image right here, it's not even breaking its arms, which is really cool. But again, it does lack the feathers, which is truly unfortunate. But we do see it hunt a Protoceratops, or at least we see a few of them hunting a Protoceratops. That is true, Protoceratops and Velociraptor did have a sort of predator-prey relationship, as we can see in the fighting dinosaur skeleton. It's a Protoceratops locked in combat with Velociraptor. So that's very cool. They're also shown to be pack hunters. Now, pack hunting is not necessarily something that's confirmed for dinosaurs like Velociraptor. We don't really have any solid evidence for it, unfortunately. So, and honestly, it's unlikely that they were, because The standard for reptiles, and that includes birds, is that they don't partake in coordinated pack hunting. At the very least, most reptiles would partake in mob behavior, which is not coordinated pack hunting. Rather, it's just a lot of individuals ganging up on a single piece or like a single animal and then taking that down, and then it's every reptile for themselves. That's way more likely than coordinated pack hunting because, again, there's not too many reptiles today that partake in coordinated pack hunting. So because it's not the standard today, it likely wasn't the standard for extinct reptiles too. The colors are cool though. Had to mention that. Colors are cool. And then in Dinosaur Planet, we have feathers. We have feathers. Feathers are present on these guys, and that is just beautiful because we've been sorely featherless for the whole duration of this video so far for an animal that was feathered. To be fair, a lot of those depictions, like feathers, like they were made when feathers wasn't as accepted. So kind of makes sense. And a multitude of other reasons. But okay, we have White Tip here. She is basically the main character of this specific episode from Dinosaur Planet. She's got like a white coloration, and the feathers look pretty good overall. I'm just not crazy about the coverage around the head. But everything else looks pretty decent. You know, she has the basic Velociraptor build. Oh, and the males also have some blue coloration, which is also really cool. They also give a little bit of an origin story for the fighting dinosaurs fossil, as we see one of the males fighting a Protoceratops gets buried. So that's cool. But yeah, that's the start to something good. Doesn't look perfect. Like the coverage of feathers is not necessarily perfect, but it's really a step in the correct direction. After that, we have the truth about killer dinosaurs, and the feathers continue. So we have the thinner skull, the overall slender body that was probably pretty swift. You know, Velociraptor does translate to speedy thief, and that's because it has the adaptations for a relatively fast lifestyle. And that's pretty cool right here. You have some really cool black feathers with more so a red face. A face that is a lot more similar to a turkey vulture, which is a bird that is also bipedal, fun fact. Just like every single bird to ever exist. Isn't that crazy? This is another example where we see a little bit of like the fighting dinosaurs fossil as this Protoceratops here bites down onto its arm while it's kind of like stabbing into it. I also really liked this documentary back in the day because it really had an emphasis on the science behind these animals rather than just making them into monsters. You know, it's called The Truth About Killer Dinosaurs. I always appreciated that. In this one, they kind of test the Velociraptor's claw. Like they spend a pretty good portion on that claw. The idea was that the claw was always able to tear through the flesh and just kind of like rip out everything. So they put that to the test. They kind of mechanized their own Velociraptor claw and had it stab into some meat. And the result was it wasn't very good at tearing. Of course, it lacks serrations. Rather, it's simply good at stabbing. Now, it's possible that they could use that to stab into vital areas of their prey, like how it's shown in this documentary. But what's also likely is that they would use that to simply pin down their prey as they jump on top of it while their teeth tear into it and their claws kind of like, or, their arms are used to stabilize while they're doing that. Still very terrifying if you ask me. Like if I got attacked by something and they just pin me down with their claws, I wouldn't be a happy camper. I'd probably be pretty upset. Next up is Dinosaur King. We have another decently accurate one. The size is correct. Velociraptor was roughly the size of a turkey. Certainly wasn't 6 feet tall like how they're portrayed in Jurassic Park. I like the colors on this one, and the skeletal structure seems to match up pretty well. Still breaks its wrist though, but yeah, overall, not a bad design. In Dino Squad, we're regressing back to the Jurassic Park Velociraptor. Anyway, you have a red coloration with some black stripes. Overall, huge build, and it kind of looks like sparse feathers on its head, which is interesting. At least it's a little bit of a reference to the feathering that was present on these animals. But yeah, pretty cool. In Dinosaurs Alive, you have this interesting looking fella. Doesn't look bad overall. I like the feathers. I like the colors. The head looks pretty all right. The rest of the body looks pretty all right, so it's a pretty all right design. In Tarbosaurus, the mightiest ever, we get these velociraptors that are about the right size. The skulls look okay, the bodies look okay, but these are the Jurassic Park 3 velociraptors. Like, look at the close-up of this one. That is the male from Jurassic Park 3. Like, I know that the Jurassic Park 3 velociraptors were literally perfect in terms of their colors. That doesn't mean we have to keep copying them, all right, guys? We can get a little bit more creative with our Velociraptor colors. It even has the quills on its head, like, what the fudge? But yeah, that one's a mixed bag. In Dinosaur Train, we have an interesting one. If you showed me a picture of this one, I would have assumed that it was an ornithomimid. because it looks like an ornithomime. Just look at how long that neck is and how small that head is. It doesn't really have the proportions of a velociraptor. The colors are pretty cool, and it does have feathers, which is awesome. Oh, and it does have the claw. It does have the toe claw, the very important deadly toe claw of Velociraptor. It's just that head and neck that is quite a bit different from the real life animal, but you know, it's a stylized show, so that's probably to be expected. Land of the Lost, we have the Jurassic Park Velociraptors. They're attacking an ice cream truck. In Dinosaur Revolution, we're back to form. I was getting worried there for a second. We have Velociraptors that are small. Their skulls look good. The rest of their bodies look good. They have feathers that are kind of like warped onto their skin. You know, the feathers don't have the, you know, they have an interesting texture about them. The same is true with the truth about killer dinosaurs. I forgot to mention that. But I like their colors, especially with that black that kind of goes up to their eye. Quite good ones, I think. Just a little bit shrink wrapped, I do declare. In Speckles the Tarbosaurus, we get this one. Not too bad in the skull. It's got the right idea, but it's got like mohawk feathers. What always cracks me up is when a lot of companies or something don't want to commit to full feathers, either for budgetary reasons or because they simply don't think they look terrifying. So they'll just do stuff like this. It's something. It's not the last that we'll see of that either. Just like in The Good Dinosaur, we see kind of like the sparse feathers that, you know, but anyway, these guys are kind of like, they're cattle rustlers, you know, they're going after the bison antiquus, and they just want to take it for their own. They're interesting, you know, they're not my favorite, but they're still stylized in a movie filled with stylized dinosaurs. So I think that they certainly fit their the kind of character choices that they had, but they do have longer necks and interesting shaped heads, but they do have those dangerous toe claws. They're also larger than they should be, but yeah, pretty interesting. In Primal, these guys are simply just referred to as raptors. I figured I'd include it because I didn't include it in the Deinonychus video. At least I don't think I did, unless I'm forgetting it. I don't think I did. Anyway, they have like red bodies and black heads. It's kind of like a reverse turkey vulture, which is a bipedal bird. But there's a whole bunch of them that are chasing after There's a whole bunch of them that are chasing after Fang and Spear. They're pretty cool. They're that kind of retro Deinonychus design overall, you know, Jurassic Park Velociraptor. But they're all right. In Gigantosaurus, we have these featherless sons of guns, red and green coloration. Their names are Kror and Totor. I think. Might have mispronounced that. But they have like an underbite going on because their lower teeth are kind of like overlapping their upper jaw. And they kind of have like a little bit of an alligator-like appearance to them, or a crocodile appearance to them. Again, they're just stylized designs of the animal. Then on to Prehistoric Planet. And we've reached perfection. These are my favorite Velociraptor designs on screen. These are just gorgeous. There's even like a little bit of variation in the color. It's like each one you look at is a little bit different, and I love that. The coverage of the feathers is on point. The feathers aren't simply just warped onto the skin. The skulls look great. The rest of the animal's bodies look great. The coverage of the feathers on the hands look great. They even, you know, those tail fans look fantastic. I love these ones. They just look so good. But the elephant in the room, these guys are not in the right time. Like, these guys were already extinct by the time the series takes place. The series is focused primarily in the Maastrichtian, which is a certain stage of the late Cretaceous. Velociraptor lived in the Campanian. They have explained the reasoning for this, and that is we have some unidentified Velociraptorine fossils in the Maastrichtian like stage. Those could be fossils for another species of Velociraptor, but we don't know. But they simply just included them regardless, and that was probably just a way for them to include one of the big name dinosaurs in their documentary, which is, you know, it's fine. It's really not a big deal at the end of the day. Those Velociraptorine fossils could possibly be Velociraptor anyway. We just simply don't know. Anyway, all that aside, I love their design here, and I just think that it's so good. The quality of the CGI is, of course, perfect, but you guys already knew that. Oh, and the babies look fantastic, too. And then after that, we'll go ahead and move on to video games. So, we'll start off with Fossil Fighters, and this one has a lot of character to it. The feathers are white. Its skin is a little bit more cyan, I want to say. Got some blue tips on the feathers, and yeah, I love it. I think it's got a lot of character to it. Now we have the iconic Carnivores Velociraptor. We got that fella kind of just walking around over there. Oh, there's a Spinosaurus. Cool. Cool, very cool. It would have been terrifying if I was actually hunting these fellows. Anyway, it's got a classic kind of Jurassic Park-esque design to it, in the fact that it's a lot, oh my gosh, in the fact that it's a lot larger and, you know, just basically that it's a lot larger. It doesn't have the feathers or anything like that. The head is a little bit more in line to Velociraptor from the movies, but just a little bit thinner. And it's got like a really cool orange coloration. It's kind of similar to the Lost World Jurassic Park Velociraptor. And little personal story about this guy. When I was younger and I first started playing this, you know, the mobile port of this game, I had to have been about 12 when this happened. But I was walking around and just hunting regular dinosaurs, you know. And I remember walking somewhere and I saw one of these guys in the distance. However, it was far enough that I thought it was, you know, a Gallimimus here. So I just went about my business, and then I died from it. Very anticlimactic, I know, but that's exactly what happened. Anyway, very cool design right there. Very good looking alien that looks like a Jurassic Park Velociraptor. In Turok, now again, these guys are a lot like the Jurassic Park Velociraptors, but in this one in particular, let's just like, look how long those arms are. There's just something about that that's just so crazy. But yeah, that's interesting. In Dino Crisis, yeah, it's the Jurassic Park Velociraptor. See, there's just a lot of influence taken from the Jurassic Park versions of these designs. It's very crazy. In Primal Carnage, we have a few different iterations that I can see. There's a couple different. I think that this one is kind of meant to be Velociraptor, but so is this one. And this one's my favorite. I like the colors on this one. It's yellow, reds. The feathers look really cool. It's kind of like a mixture of kind of like the Awesome Bro type dinosaurs, as well as the little, like, taking some influence from paleo accuracy. So I definitely don't hate it. In Jurassic the Hunted, they kind of remind me a little bit more of Ostroraptor, because while they do have the thinner skull, because the rest of their body looks the way that it does, it looks like they simply just have like a longer snout, kind of like Ostroraptor. Just an interesting note. In Beasts of Bermuda, we get this delightful little fella that has what seems like the proper feathering, as well as just some really cool colors overall, so I do really like it. In the Isle, we're kind of going back a little bit to some featherless raptors, but the skeletal structure does seem to match up with this one. You know, the skull is a lot more reminiscent of a Velociraptor skull. It has the smaller size like a Velociraptor. Some of the colors that you can give it are very cool. And you know, it's got the claws, it's got the proper hands, all that good stuff. It's just simply naked, essentially. So overall, not too bad. In Paleopines, we get a lot of the traits that you would expect to see for Velociraptor. Small size, the skull looks pretty good and thin overall. It's got the proper feathers, and I love it. You know, a very good stylized version of the animal, so you really can't complain with that. In Fortnite, we have some Jurassic Park inspired Velociraptors, but they have some feathers, on their arms and some feathers on their head. Very sparse overall, but I do like the little reference, I suppose. In Funko Fusion, of course, they're Funko Pop versions of the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. Which, I mean, I got this blue from, like, you know, back in the day. So this is a pretty good idea of what they look like in the game. Next up is the Prehistoric Kingdom Velociraptor. These guys are beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. It's got the proper feathering. The neck looks really good. The head looks really good. It's like this is a very good representation of the animal's head. The legs look great. The toe claws look great. And the colors are what really stand out to me. You got this really cool coloration right here of Velociraptor mongoliensis. You got this one right here that also looks fantastic. A nice kind of brownish coloration. And this one that really reminds me of a roadrunner, which is a bipedal bird that I absolutely love. I mean, this one also kind of reminds me of a roadrunner too, but this one really does, and I just think that looks fantastic. You even get some variation with, you know, the female versions of these guys, which is it's just awesome. It's just so awesome. I love it. Yeah, of course, you know, it probably goes without saying, but these are among my favorite designs on this whole list. I think that they absolutely knocked it out of the park with these ones. Just very beautiful representations of Velociraptor. They killed it in every possible way. And we're going to be getting, of course, babies. You know, we're going to be getting growth stages from these fellows. We even got images, or an image of Velociraptor babies that look fantastic as well. Now, let's see what Nigel has to say.
Blink and you'll miss it. Here comes the speedy thief, Velociraptor. By far the most popular feature of Velociraptor is its sickle-shaped killing claw. One of our interpreters loves to carry a replica with him to show to the children. It always seems to make a big impression.
It's such a nice design, and I love the sounds too. Proper coverage of the feathers as well, which I didn't mention too much of this, but it did have these feathers right here that almost made it look like a wing. Covered half of the middle finger, but the last finger out, the inner finger was completely exposed, whereas the one, the third finger is completely covered. Very good model, very beautiful model, um, and again is without a shadow of the doubt one of my favorites on this list. So I love it. And there was the Velociraptor. Full disclosure, this was not every single depiction to ever exist. There's a lot of them that I did leave out for various different reasons. But I think that these were among some of the most notable, at least in my own opinion, and some of the ones that I wanted to talk about the most. Very fun list overall, though. Either you get Jurassic Park camped, like Jurassic Park inspired camped, or you get, push for accuracy camp in terms of Velociraptor. So it was an interesting list overall, but I did have a lot of fun with it. I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you so much for 30,000 subscribers. That just really means a lot to me. But that's pretty much all I have for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.